our question comes to us today. It's from an anonymous person, but it's from a Facebook group I'm in that I strongly recommend if you're on the Facebooks. It's called Sounds Like Sapphic Propaganda, parentheses, no TERFs. So it's a very trans-friendly, trans-heavily influenced, trans-lesbian site. This was written by an anonymous person that I'll just read it, and this is what she had to say. My algorithm regularly turns me toward non-binary content and ads. For a long time, I've written this off as just something that happens because I interact with queer content in general. Creators often say things that suggest that if I'm having certain thoughts, I'm an egg and it's only a matter of time. I am AFAB and I've always felt very comfortable with that. It was never even something I would have questioned before TikTok, and any suggestion that I'm anything other than cis makes me feel deeply uncomfortable. I've gone back and forth with myself on this a number of times and always come back to the conclusion that I'm a woman. A lot of the content I've seen has suggested that even thinking about it for more than a second is evidence that I am not cis. The pronouns I use and I'm comfortable with are she, her, but they, them doesn't bother me in the slightest. In general, I'm pretty feminine and like being recognized as such, but I know I have at least a small amount of masculine expression, which I have usually attributed to being raised by a single dad. Does just the fact that it bothers me so much mean something? I really don't like the thought of stepping out of my assigned box. Is this something any of you relate to? Is the fact I'm even here asking the proverbial nail in the coffin? How do I even approach something that makes me feel this degree of discomfort? P.S. I'm openly bisexual and have an accepting and loving family with many queer friends in my community, and I live somewhere that is generally a safe place to be queer. I'm not afraid that there would be danger or harm to me if I did discover something about myself. This is not fear-based. It just really, really bothers me. So TLDR, the algorithm suggests that I'm non-binary. I don't think I am, and the thought of it makes me uncomfortable, but I can't stop thinking about it. Lilith, you have so much to say.
Yeah, first of all, the algorithm doesn't know that the algorithm is there to make us miserable. The algorithm is there to make us miserable. Here's the thing. Here's what I love to watch on YouTube. I like to watch clips of like shows that I like bunched together, like all the times Tony Soprano yelled at Chris, or like stuff from Breaking Bad. I love watching those kind of things. I love watching wrestling clips, like the best body slams of the Attitude Era, or whatever, the best whatever. I like watching video game stuff. So like I'll get into that. And what'll happen is, like, when I was playing Fallout 4, I clicked a few Fallout 4 videos, and all of a sudden everything was Fallout 4. Well, I made the mistake. Politically, I think I'm not shy about it. I'm not a conservative. I'm not going to be voting for Donald Trump, but I also don't wash myself in the online anti-Trump stuff. Like, I don't need to see this stuff.
We already know he's a piece of shit.
I already know he's a piece of shit. I don't need
this is not news.
I don't need some guy reading a blog post.
Can you believe what he did this time?
There's this one guy. His screen will be him looking at his computer screen, and the other thing will be the blog he's reading. He's just like, and I'm just like, what is this for? Well, anyway, I clicked on one of those, and like within a week, everything was like these anti-Trump things where it's just like some dude in his living room, and the thing is like, Trump totally embarrassed at thing. And then like, he really wasn't. First of all, he'd have to be able to suffer embarrassment. He would have to have a sense of shame for that to happen. If you go look up something, it's gonna give you more of that. That's the whole point of it. The way it's set up isn't to inform. It is to get you in for the content. It's to keep you watching. And that's, unfortunately, like, at least for you, you could be thankful that one day you didn't accidentally click on a QAnon video and then go down that rabbit hole. So
I've accidentally clicked on some of that stuff.
I don't think it's anyone else's place to tell anyone what they're feeling. My opinion, it's been from day one of this podcast is like, be you, explore what you want to explore. You don't like wearing dresses, that doesn't mean you're not a trans woman. Just because you like something doesn't mean you are who you are. So you be who you are. Being called they, them doesn't bother you. That's fine. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't mean you're non-binary. It doesn't mean you're on your way to being masculine. You're just on your way to be yourself. So keep the things you love about yourself. Enjoy those things. If you don't like something, you can always let go of it. You don't have to hold on to it. The whole point of everything is to live your true self and be your true self. It's not to be what someone else defines you as. Every time I see that, it's like, if you even thought for 1 minute when you were 12, it's like, shut up, whatever. That's just nonsense. be you. Maybe you're just not ready for it. And I'm not saying that's where you are, but maybe down the line you will find out, and maybe down the line you won't. Live the life you want to live and be the person you want to be. And how others define you doesn't affect how you live your life. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, exactly. I agree with pretty much all of that. Let me put it this way. There's nothing I disagree with about what you just said. However, I think there is some more nuance that I'd like to add to it, because I think it is a deep thing. And there's a few aspects of it, like where she says, I'm AFAB and I've always been very comfortable with that. It was never even something I would have questioned before TikTok, and any suggestion that I'm anything other than cis makes me feel deeply uncomfortable. So right there, it's not anything, that's not an indictment, but speaking from personal anecdotal experience, I was uncomfortable, thinking, even though I knew I was trans, I was uncomfortable thinking about it, because the idea of being trans in any way is scary, because there's a lot of ramifications that come with it, and it's a life-changing step to take. And so I could see how someone who, if in fact, and I'm not implying that they are Aggie or are an egg or anything like that, but if they were, I could see how that could be a thing where it's but it's on my mind. I keep thinking about it. And to me, the fact that she's in here, she was in the forum in a place that was a heavily trans-centric place, asking about gender, it's not an indictment, doesn't mean you are those things, but it also doesn't mean that you're not. It doesn't really ultimately matter if you're comfortable being a cis woman and being referred to as she, her, and they, them doesn't bother you. That doesn't mean you have to adopt they, them. It doesn't mean anything. The overarching advice that I would give in this specific scenario, and in general, is if it ain't fucking broke, don't fix it. If you're cis and you're comfortable being cis and you're comfortable with the gender you're assigned at birth, then you don't need to fuck with it. And the other thing, Lilith said, don't ever let a computer tell you shit. Deltron 3030 said that. So tell the funky Homo sapien said that, and I live by that. Don't ever let a computer tell you shit. The algorithm fucking doesn't dictate your life. Be the algorithm.
This leads me to the best algorithm advice I ever received, and it was from my lovely partner here, Amanda.
That's a good one. I know what you're getting at.
I went through Facebook. Every time I see an ad for women's underwear or bras or a lingerie, I like it. When I scroll through, that's pretty much
90% of my ads is women in their underwear, because
what's weird is
click love.
What's weird is
everyone I see.
Here's the thing with the algorithm. If you dislike or block something, it still sends you more of that because you're interacting with it. There are a bottomless, limitless garbage pit of Daughters of the Revolutionary War and blah, blah, blah. I've blocked them, and there's another one named similarly, just the same thing. They know you stopped to look at it, and you interacted with it. So like all the underwear ads, the women's underwear ads, fill that with your feed.
Or men's, if that's your thing. Whatever your jam is,
you're right. I was talking strictly for myself.
Yeah, I prefer.
Do they have?
I like seeing scantily clad women.
Are there men's underwear ads? Here's a plain white piece of fabric to stretch across your balls. It's ooh, I like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a fan of Christopher Hitchens, and if you don't know who Christopher Hitchens is, he's a writer. In the later years of his life, he spent going on TV and advocating strongly against religion. He wrote a great book called God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything, and I strongly recommend it. He was born in England, but he became a naturalized citizen in the United States, but he's maintained a proper British accent, he speaks the Kings. He's very eloquent with both his writing and his speech, and he's a top-notch debater. And one of the things that I like about him is that he pulls no punches, and he rips religious people to shreds in their own places. And so there's all these debates where he goes up against religious people that make all these outrageous claims, and these religious scholars that say, oh, well, Jesus must be real because of this and this and this, and see all the evidence. And he just systematically rips it to shreds and points out how ridiculous their arguments are. And he does it in a way that's irrefutable, and it's wonderful. It's just so affirming as an atheist.
I'm going to do some work here.
Yeah.
I'm going to tie this back to the original subject.
Well, I have...
Do you?
Yeah, because I'm not just saying this.
What?
The reason I'm saying this is because I watch these Christopher Hitchens videos. Now, what it also sends me is a bunch of Christian stuff that says, is God real? Like, is there proof of Jesus? Like, they found the tomb of Jesus. And so I get all these weird Christian quote unquote philosophical videos pumped into my feed, and so I have to sift through that trash.
If Jesus isn't real, how did they make those perfect little replicas of him on the cross? I mean, that's all I'm saying. Perfect replica of him. There's one, I believe it's Christopher Hitchens, where he's giving a speech and someone asks him, what if you're wrong? And he basically said, well, what if you're wrong? You believe in Christianity because you were born in America in this time period.
Right.
If you were born in another country in another time period, you would have been told something else. You believe that. If you would have been born in parts of Asia or Africa or wherever, you'd have this different belief system that you would be confused that anyone else believed anything else. And that's really what the algorithm is. It's just shoving you stuff. That's exactly what happened with QAnon. Is this just becomes everything they see? They're like, well, the mainstream media won't report that this horse dewormer cures COVID, and it's like, well, that's because it doesn't.
You're right. They won't. They won't report.
They will not, because it does not. You're caught in this wormhole where that's all you're getting. Be aware of the algorithm at work.
It all goes back to Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Don't ever let a computer tell you shit. I understand though, because my YouTube channel, based on what I watch and what I click and what I like and what I've subscribed to, has narrowed what comes into my feed. I can go outside of that anytime I want, but because I'm lazy and because it's generally at the end of the day when I just want to watch TV and fall asleep, I don't want to think of all the things I could possibly want to watch. I just want to pick something and fall asleep to it. I'm on Facebook because I'm old, and Facebook is trying to convince me that I have ADHD and that I'm autistic. The computer's showing me stuff, so maybe the computer's right. It's like, you see how bad AI is. Like, the computer's not right.
I think it literally is just realizing that it's a profit engine. If you like that, you might also watch this, whether you hate it or love it, so that the commercials play when they get to the commercial breaks, and then maybe you'll go to something that you hate even more. It's part of the profit mechanism, is trying to draw you in. The computer doesn't know if you're non-binary. The computer knows that you watched a non-binary video, and that's all the computer knows.
But YouTube knows how I feel, Lil.
But then maybe you end up here and you get great advice about how to handle this. But maybe you also go to like a shitty channel where they're just like, weird ideas, and now you're there and now you're in that wormhole.
It is all rabbit holes. YouTube is a giant rabbit hole. Rabbit holes inside rabbit holes, like it. And that can be fun.
There's cool stuff. Like, I found this one lady who's like a singing teacher, and she like breaks down musicians singing, and she like did one on System of a Down, and it was just like crazy, like hearing someone, like, if you listen to, like, they're like all over the place and like changing gears, and it's kind of cool and it's amazing.
I think System of a Down's great.
It's great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
As I went to sleep, all I was doing was clicking these. She had a couple System of a Down, then I was just watching System of a Down videos. YouTube's like, oh, you like System of a Down? Yeah. I was like, do you also like Metallica? It's like, no, I don't also like Metallica. What is the connection there?
Don't let the YouTube algorithm or the Facebook algorithm or the Instagram algorithm, don't let the social media algorithm influence your own personal reality. However, if it brought something to your attention that is now making you think about a thing, I think at any time, for whatever reason, whatever the prompt is, whatever the cue is, I always think it's healthy to explore your gender. I think that's a thing that everyone should just do, period. If you've been prompted by the algorithm to start thinking about some things that you've never thought about before, well, then certainly the easiest way to do that is to try they, them on for a while and just see how it feels. Go into some space faces or some forums or whatever and just kind of see how that feels. And to whatever degree you're comfortable with, just explore. There's no downside to it.
I would also encourage you to like everyone to just take this beyond gender and explore who you are and what you want to do and who you want to be. It's a big thing I often talk about with people. If they're not happy with their job or things that are going on, explore what other opportunities are. Push yourself to try new things. Push yourself to be afraid about the choices you're making and go for it. Realize that you can always change back. You can always correct course. You can always do whatever. Don't let social media algorithm kind of because this and this came on my feed, I'm this. I accidentally deleted a football thing on my Facebook, and then I got like 4 things that are like for Chicago Bears fans. I am never going to be a Chicago Bears fan.
You know why?
Because Chicago sucks.
The Bears stink.
The Bears stink.
The Bears stink.
The Bears stink.